Babies born during COVID-19 lockdowns developed and moved through early milestones under challenging and unique circumstances. Minimal physical contact with others, interactions with loved ones via masks and FaceTime calls, and less exposure to public places more generally, like the hubbub of a playground or cafe. Now those babies are starting school, and with it, those different development circumstances are beginning to show. Obviously not all children are the same, but Plunket says things like social skills, emotional regulation and anxiety are challenges that many whānau are working through. Whānau Āwhina Plunket Chief Nurse is Zoe Tipa. She's in to talk about what families can do to help their 4 and 5-year-olds as they start or prepare to start school. Questions to 2101, email 9tanoon@rnz.co.nz. Morena, Zoe.
Morena, thanks for having me.
This is so interesting. It's hard to believe it's 5 years already.
I know, right?
Yeah, but that visual contact, the facial contact of infants with their loved ones, and more widely, it's so fundamental, isn't it? And it was happening a little bit differently at this time.
Absolutely. It was pretty unique circumstances, wasn't it? So we're just sort of seeing the ongoing long tail, if you like, of COVID.
So tell me a little bit more about the pandemic restrictions and how they kind of came up against both the nature and the amount of contact infants were having.
Yeah, well, I guess when the pandemic hit, services like Plunket and other well child tamariki order services were not deemed essential, really. And so that meant that it restricted any sort of interaction that you would normally sort of do when children are born right through to when they're 5. And they kind of missed out on some of those key developmental assessment points, and as well as basically, a lot of interactions generally with, other children and other people, really. And so it kind of limited the amount of social contact as well as the kind of monitoring from a health point of view, any sort of how the developmental progress is going. So that was a key impact that we didn't think about the long-term implications at the time. Really, we were all kind of just trying to figure out what came next.
What are some of those milestones that were directly impacted?
So I guess well child tamariki order services, we see whānau at different time points. So there's about sort of 7 key contacts that we have, and at those contacts we do specific developmental assessments and check in with the whānau to see if they've got any concerns about how their child's progressing and what have you. So though it's looking at all sorts of things, but the kind of physical development, the fine motor skill development, and then the sort of social emotional development and the speech and language and that kind of thing too.
Speech and language, I mentioned attachment and just kind of generally infants learning how to build relationships and build trust, and they do that via their faces. That's why we see lots of laughter and giggling and smiling and look at me, I'm so cute. That's how they connect, right?
Yep.
And this was happening, I guess, through masks often, but the other key point was it was FaceTime, it was through screens rather than going to visit Nan and Granddad.
Definitely. So that just became a normal part of reality, was you talk to people through screens, and there's so like we know from meetings, there's quite a different dynamic when you're in the room with people versus when you're on a screen talking to people, and that you can imagine that when your brain is kind of sitting down, laying down all those kind of little connections as a little person, that would have had quite a significant impact developmentally. So, yeah, definitely. And also the kind of normality of screen time. And so it suddenly became like, oh, you could use it now, but now we're saying not too much screen time kind of thing. So you can see why people get a bit confused.
Yeah. The social skills is an interesting one. I would have thought it was perhaps the toddlers and the kids who should have been at preschool and kindy who were in some ways most impacted. For infants, was it simply that it tended to be whoever the primary caregivers were at home and siblings and not really anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, you can't sort of underestimate the kind of the importance of exposure to different people and different dynamics socially at any age, really, and that kind of how that feeds into how you learn how to self-regulate. And it's, this is a strange person coming into my world. I've got to figure out, look to my mum or look to my dad or someone important to me to get that kind of cues that it's okay and that sort of thing. So if that's not happening, it's just not as many experiences or opportunities to kind of develop in that way.
I mean, the poor old babies, they get passed around, literally. I mean, literally.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know if it still happens now, literally. Here's a baby, hold it. You hold it.
Yeah.
I don't even know it. No, hold it. Give it a cuddle.
Everyone wants it.
And I remember talking to a wonderful anthropologist once whose thesis was that the reason babies are so cute and giggle and smile and, look at me, is just that. They know that they got no control over anything really, and it's their way of saying, "Be kind to me. I'm cute." Yeah. So that's one thing. Let's stay with this then. At what point did Plunket, in working with Whānau, begin to see that maybe there was a bit of a pattern here? I mean, let's say babies are resilient, right? And we don't want to sort of over catastrophise around this, but at what point did Plunket start seeing potentially some commonalities in these babies?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some level we always knew there'd be impacts, but I guess what's different now is that we're starting to see it play out in particular sort of at that before school check age, so about sort of between 3-4 years old. We're starting to see that, and we've got sort of the first cohort going to school, and we're just seeing some trends around the just that self-regulation, the anxiety, some of the social skills, just quite a shift from some of the issues. We always had those issues, but just a lot more sort of it occurring more often, I guess.
All right. And so some of those questions were what? What were some of the things that Whānau were saying or that you were picking up on as professionals?
Yeah, I guess it was, how, they just seem to be having a meltdown. There's often meltdowns, isn't there, with little people, but more frequently than usual. People that have had older children and they're sort of comparing a child that's been born through COVID and they're thinking, it's quite different to my other child. And children are different. So it's always difficult to kind of know exactly what's caused that kind of particular scenario. It's still individual, but there's just sort of a trend that, there's a lot more sort of worrying when they're separated, big emotional kind of reactions to changes in routine, struggling to share and take turns, staying on the kind of periphery and group settings and things like that. So just things that you start to notice,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of it makes sense. And did this begin to emerge in that kind of toddler stage where managing big emotions is a challenge?
Yeah.
That was when it was presenting. The anxiety is another one because, again, this is something we're going to learn over time. I mean, everybody just wants the whole darn thing, A, to have never happened and B, to go away. But I think we will learn more over time about how the anxiety that adults were feeling, we know that is conveyed to children, and quite natural anxiety in responses as well, whether that kind of, it almost gets absorbed by osmosis, doesn't it? And this could be another reason for, when put in a situation that's a little bit different or a little bit challenging or just new, a response is perhaps an elevated level of anxiety. A kid from a different time, it might be more curiosity than anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. That sort of clinginess and the big reactions to being separated and the kind of fear of change, liking that kind of predictability. We just might see a bit more of that for now. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate that it's no one's fault. Like, we just didn't know that this was going to be.
Well, it was what it was, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So,
Some of the others, was there something to do with children talking on a phone, but then face-to-face being an issue? I mean, this is kind of a trend coming through for younger people, full stop, because so much of their communication, so much of their lives is digital. But again, literally having someone in your face, was that a thing for these kids, especially when it was someone you didn't know?
I think so. I mean, I think what we're seeing now is that, for some children, they might prefer to choose a device over playing with friends or toys. So they'll reach for the device. And you kind of see that anyway, because devices are designed to make you feel like that anyway. I think. But there's also that kind of a shorter attention span in some of those face-to-face activities. And there might be a bit less imaginative or kind of creative or interactive play as well. So those are some things that might be linked to that screen time.
Noise, another issue, because of course, again, if you're off to daycare or off to preschool with a bunch of other kids, noise is a thing. But for some of this generation, they may not have experienced that, certainly not at a very young age.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's that stimulation, right? And it's that being able to self-regulate when there's a whole lot of stuff going on and not kind of getting thrown off by it. And that's a real skill, isn't it? Like anything else. And I can only imagine what it would be like coming from quite a quiet environment to one that's a little bit rowdier. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I hope we're talking margins here in most instances, but as always, you want to help. And so whether it is, whether it's at preschool or now for these kids going off to school, what are some of the things that can help parents, help caregivers, make up the ground, I guess, or help children with experiences that they didn't have at an early age because of this?
Yeah, so I think, it's really about, well, each child's unique, right? So, and each issue is unique, but, thinking about how you can reassure them, predictable routines, kind of gentle transitions, celebrate small steps of independence. It's all of the stuff that we try to promote you to do anyway, but it's just kind of just checking in and thinking, actually, do I need to go back a step and just do a bit more of this? Helping, arranging kind of play dates, small play dates, buddy systems, praising kind of, when they've shared something or they've tried to join into something. There's a lot of different things. I think the other thing is, just everyday activities, playtime, join in with the play, talk about things, really be interested in things, ask what do you think might happen next, all those sorts of things. I think there's some real kind of just make the time, invest in that kind of time where you're truly kind of connecting outside of kind of screens and separate things. You're actually doing it together.
Also, that anxiety thing, which is prevalent, it seems, for any number of reasons in some of the generations coming through. What are the ways of helping children with that? I mean, it's closely allied, isn't it, to self-regulation? It's about literally sometimes helping them with the ability to calm down and get into a place where they can actually hear what you're saying, for starters.
Definitely. I mean, when it's heightened, it's just, and if there's a lot of noise around, it's definitely about taking them out to a quieter space and just calmly sitting there and waiting till the emotion drops a little and teaching them how to breathe, and just kind of taking the time to calm it down and then name kind of how they're feeling as well. That's really helpful too. I can see you're frustrated. I can see you're sad. And I think something that we underestimate too is the importance of role modelling how we cope as well. And they're just sponges, They'll just pick up on everything that we're doing and they'll copy it. So you really want to work on yourself too, and how you cope with big emotions and how you cope with stress and things like that. Yeah.
In terms of the transition to school, we do start children in the formal schooling system very early in New Zealand compared to some nations. Often it's 6, and some places I think it's even 7 that they typically head off to school, in inverted commas.
Yeah.
And are schools and others getting better at a little bit of flex around that transition? And I'm sure that schools, because they deal with these kids every day, also have on their mind, are they showing an awareness that children might come through with one or two fairly common traits from this generation?
Yeah, look, I'm probably not the one to talk about that because I don't really have a lot to do with when children get to school, but I would imagine so. And, I do come from a family of teachers who have indicated that they're noticing things as well when they get to school. So I'm thinking that, everyone has a responsibility to respond to this this long tail of COVID. Really, we have to do what we can to support the children to get what they need when they need it. So that might involve doing things a little differently.
And just awareness as well. I mean, here's another correspondent. All young, babies or animals, pick up on adults' anxiety, whether it's hidden or not. Over a prolonged period of time like COVID, this will compound, and at critical points it will have more impact at other times than at other times. Look, any of your experiences as a child, as a young child, imprint, on the way you're going to go and be in certain circumstances. But what we can learn and help children learn are coping mechanisms for the things they experience, whatever the source of it. Here's a good question. Were there any positive impacts, e.g. more time with immediate family? Making sourdough, I added that last bit. But that's a very good point. A lot of people said, you know what, I quite enjoyed not trucking off to work and being under that stress all day, and we had more time as a family than we'd had for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like anything, there's a continuum, right? And there's people that would have just embraced it. I embraced it. I loved the time and the the peace in that regard, and I think, having that time and space, dedicated time to be able to spend with your whānau at home, I mean, that's fantastic. And for where it wasn't causing that added stress and anxiety, I can see how it would have been a really positive experience for everyone. I mean, I guess, it's case by case, isn't it? And it's just sort of, I guess, at a population level, we're just seeing this kind of trend, but it certainly won't reflect everyone's experiences.
Ngā mihi nui, thank you. That is Zoe Tipa, who is Āwhina Plunket Chief Nurse